All right, everyone, before we get started today, I need to tell you about our amazing teammates at Darby Communications. If you run an outdoor, an endurance, or an active lifestyle brand, there is no better PR or digital marketing belay partner or drinking buddy than Darby. They can help your business reach new heights, and they might just keep you from falling on your ass. Since we started working with Darby, more and more people have been reaching out to us here at the Rock Fight because of that messaging. Look, guys, if they can help us, they can help anybody. Hit them up at darbycommunications.com. Do it today. Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak out truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True, and today I talk about the tea and the goss around the letter that was sent to Outside's CEO this past week, and then I'll be joined by Rock Fight consigliere Owen Comerford to talk about what he learned about the North Face from last week's VF Investor Day. But before we get to that, did you miss Monday and Wednesday's episode of the Rock Fight? It's been a big week here on the Rock Fight, so make sure you get caught up. Monday, we ranked the top 5 outdoor accessory brands, and on Wednesday, Justin Hausman and I read listener responses to last week's Q&A Corner. Check it out. And hey, are you listening to Open Container? Host Doug Schnitzbahn's podcast here on the Rock Fight Podcast Network. If not, you should be. You should listen and subscribe to Open Container, and you should also listen and subscribe to this podcast, The Rock Fight, on your favorite podcast app. Give both of them that 5-star rating, and stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Rock Fight, Rock Fight, Rock Fight.
You're listening to Rock Fight Radio. No! Fit Socks is riding high with a string of number ones, and because of that success, they were able to get super producer Rick Albini to remaster this hit, We Believe in the Sock. Here we go. It's time for Fits.
We believe in the sock to make you happy. We believe in the sock, whole foot comfort. We believe in the sock that don't have to bunch, blister, or fall. We believe in free-range toes and having room to roam in fine gauge merino wool as comfortable as home. We believe in made in USA, and we believe in doing what we say. Wear fits, we fit. That's right. That's right. Wear fits, we fit. That's right. That's right. And we believe in the sock. Fits, fits, fits. We believe in the sock. Fits, fits, fits. We believe in the sock. And we believe in the sock. Fits, 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 fits. We believe in the sock. Fits.
And now, back to the show. All right, I want to talk about this real quick before I bring in Owen, because once again, there is some drama coming out of the world of Outside. And I'm not talking about our friend Patty O'Connell getting the gig as the host of their podcast. That is something that I've been saying they should do for forever. So I'm glad to see that is finally happening. No, the tea that spilled this past Monday was a group of more than 30 former Outside contributing editors sending a letter to Outside Incorporated's CEO, Robin Thurston, asking that their names be removed from Outside's masthead. And per that letter, which several of those who signed it have publicly posted on LinkedIn and Instagram, the reason for this request is, quote, due to the layoffs of Outside's longtime editorial leadership and budget cuts that place an undue strain on the hardworking staff that remain, end quote. They also go on to write, quote, we are equally alarmed by directives from the company's leadership asking editors to refrain from investigative journalism and political coverage, end quote. Some of the names who sent this letter include Jimmy Chin, Katie Arnold, Mark Peruzzi, Grayson Schaefer, E. Jean Carroll, Hampton Sides, and Tracy Ross. And Outside's response was swift. Robin Thurston responded to the group on Tuesday. Mark Peruzzi posted Robin's response on his LinkedIn feed, while Hampton Sides also posted it on Instagram. Robin expressed disappointment in the request while offering to meet and discuss things. Hampton Sides also responded to Robin's response, which you can find on Instagram. And my guess is that a meeting is unlikely to happen. Mark Peruzzi also annotated Robin's response with his own thoughts on LinkedIn. It's all out there for anyone who wants to read it. It's not hard to find. Go check it out. So first off, Allow me to be petty for a second and say this is exactly what I've been harping on for 2 years. Anytime I've brought up Outside on this show, it's been out of straight confusion about a move they made. The only L I feel like I've taken was pondering if they would actually do the Outside Festival, which of course they have done and seem to be doing again this year. Every other rock I've lobbed at them was rooted in simply not getting what they were trying to do, whether that thing was a morning magazine-style TV show or using their widely known podcast to run a 20-minute ad for their forthcoming AI chatbot, or an attempt to bring NFTs to the outdoors, the launch of their own social media platform, or Robin's op-ed about going heli-skiing with celebrities. None of it made any sense to me, and none of it really seemed to work. And plus, over that same time, the quality of the journalism, it just was going in the wrong direction. I've said it on this show before that when I think of Outside, I think of things like The Perfect Storm and Into Thin Air. On Doug Schnitzbaum's podcast, Open Container, he spoke to Stephen Casimiro a couple of weeks ago. He referenced The King of the Ferret Leggers, another classic piece to come out of Outside. And looking at Outside's website the morning I'm recording this, almost every recent article is the type of snackable, improve your life content that old school Outside readers and writers would make fun of in other publications. The majority of the brands and entities that end up in our crosshairs here on the Rock Fight don't find themselves there because I just want to be an asshole and rant about things I don't like. If you really listen to what we say about them, you'll see it's because they are often brands or retailers or decision makers that we like and love and have a history with and are bummed out about the position they have found themselves in. I don't want Outside to suck. I also don't begrudge the, lots of titles and companies under one big outdoor roof experiment that Robin Thurston has attempted. But at some point, you need to recognize that you are being willfully obtuse about the lack of success of both the strategy and the work you're producing. And another reason I have such a bug up my ass about this is that even in its decline, Outside is still the dominant player in outdoor media. Talk to any outdoor publicist off the record, and they'll tell you that the prevailing sentiment is that the Outside product is significantly diminished, but that the brands are still eager to be highlighted in listicles, features, and Outside's gear guide. And it appears that the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back was the layoffs that took place last month that wiped out most of the remnants of Outside's existence before its most current iteration, which led to a lot of folks who had been disgruntled behind the scenes speaking up, and then this letter asking to be removed from the masthead. And in speaking with a few folks, again, off the record, most of these folks impacted by the layoffs and even those who have left Outside on their own have signed non-disparagement agreements. So speaking publicly would put them at risk. A big turning point was apparently the directive from management to avoid certain topics. This is cited in the letter from these former editors where they wrote, "We are equally alarmed by directives from the company's leadership asking editors to refrain from investigative journalism and political coverage." If that's truly the case, that those writing for a title that came to prominence telling amazing stories about the outdoors as well as stories that weren't even about the outdoors but the outdoor community embraced, if they have guardrails up to prevent that level of journalism, then it's difficult to see how this ends with Outside thriving again in the future because for better or for worse, you guys, you took the Outside name and the logo and you built everything else underneath that so people expect it to be Outside. And it's not really that way anymore. And the last thing I'll say on this is that when we had CJ from Outside on the show a few weeks ago to talk about the Outside Festival, I really left that conversation encouraged, not that any of what I just described would be fixed by what they were planning for the festival, but that perhaps the festival was the roadmap for Outside to remain relevant in the outdoor conversation. But with what transpired this week, I have to say I'm significantly less optimistic about what the future holds for Outside. And while that's a bummer, I think it's just time for something new. Like maybe the podcast you're listening to right now. I don't know. Let's take a break, and then we'll be back with Owen. All right, folks, let's talk about a game changer, literally. If you're a brand or retailer in the outdoor industry, think of Endeavor like the ultimate power-up for your sales game. This platform is designed to level up retail associates, giving them the XP they need to master your gear, sell more, and rack up rewards along the way. It's like a cheat code for better sales, making sure your products don't just sit on the shelves but actually move. Why is this valuable? Well, trained and motivated staff sell way more gear. Brands using Endeavor, like K2 Sports and Smith Optics, have seen better sell-through, stronger brand engagement, and real data insights on what works. And here's where Endeavor gets really interesting. It's gamified. That means learning about products and earning incentives feels fun and not like homework. But there's also a couple of other power-ups you'll want to consider. First is their partnership with Locally, so online shoppers can instantly find a knowledgeable staffer in a nearby store ready to seal the deal. Second is an option known as freemium, where you can launch brand assets, push newsfeed posts, and coordinate rep clinics. And with Endeavor's pay-as-you-go plans, you can take sales contests, education campaigns, or collect staff insights collection programs all out for a test drive. The bottom line, if your retail game is feeling like it's stuck in easy mode, Endeavor is the upgrade you need to unlock next-level sales, max out your team's knowledge, and beat the boss when it comes to customer experience. Head to Endeavor, that's endvr.io, to learn more today. All right, well, let's welcome in Rockfight's, what are you, the Outdoor Industry Insider, and Rockfight's consigliere. You have all these titles. I don't remember
So many
what we call you. Owen Comerford is here, and we're talking a bit about what happened last week on March 6th. That was there was a broader investor day put on by their parent company VF. That they in the sentence being the North Face, and North Face's Caroline Brown laid out her vision for the famed outdoor brand. Owen, earlier this week on LinkedIn, you broke down your key takeaways based on Caroline's remarks, and
It was so nice of them to invite us. By the way, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, what's up with that? I mean, how do you get invites to these things? Does any other? There's no real outdoor media. They probably don't even think that they need to invite anyone from the media to these things.
Yeah, no, that'll be interesting though if we ever do get invited. That'll be like the sign of the pending apocalypse.
We've broken through.
Well, no, it's the pending apocalypse. If Rockfight gets invited to the VF Investor Day, so anyway, yeah, no.
So want to see us in the back room, like producer Dave giggling and doing silly things the entire time. Is that what it would be?
Pretty much. No, but I relied on the excellent reporting from CISO and then broke it down from there. Plus, they also posted the presentation VF Corp did. So,
yeah, a lot of great information came out of this. I mean, we could talk about any one of their brands, and it obviously, and I know they're a public company, so I'm sure that's why they release all that information. But it was great to see all that, and your coverage of it was great. We're going to go through. You had 9 takeaways, and we're going to go through each of those in a second here. But more broadly, I do want to add some context to this conversation. Like, why do we care? Like, why is it important, do you think, for us to talk about this here on the show?
We have very few $billion plus brands in the outdoor industry, and the North Face is really the biggest, right? I mean, you get North Face at close to $4 billion. Arc'teryx now is a couple of billion. I think Patagonia is somewhere in that place too. So
Solomon,
Solomon, we never forget about Solomon around here. And so these are the big brands. They're also publicly traded, so we get to see a little bit under the covers, which we don't get to see with some of the other brands. And quite frankly, what's happening with their business and what is projected for their business in many ways is an indicator of what's happening in the larger outdoor industry.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I've been getting a lot of emails lately from listeners that kind of blaming the woes of the industry on the big brands, and I'm not saying there are not criticisms that are worthy of putting at their feet. I mean, there's all sorts of things we can talk about, and we do. But we don't have an industry without without a $4 billion entity like the North Face. It just becomes like a little collection of small brands, right? So it's important to kind of see what's happening with the big players to kind of determine where the industry is actually headed.
Yeah, and I think some of the things that they throw at the feet of the big brands, whether it's D2C or discounting or whatever else, a lot of that is happening in the medium and small size brands too. So let's not pretend that all the badness is happening with the big guys.
Right. And just to we will, when we're done with this list of things you took away from the Investor Day, we'll make sure we highlight some of the Founders Fridays brands you've been talking about as well, because we want to make sure we continue to do that for sure.
Totally.
So let's go through some of your observations. Like I said, there are 9. The first one you wrote: the North Face will double its apparel, equipment, and bags business and triple its footwear business. Those are big numbers for a big brand. What's going on there?
I mean, if you take so they do about 3.6, 3.7 billion, you double all those and you triple footwear, you're getting close to an $8 billion brand, which is pretty meaningful. And I would tell you though, of the 3.7-ish billion that they do today, less than $1 billion is actually in what Circana would call the U.S. retail. So it's the specialty outdoor, it's the Dick's and the REIs, it's the backcountries and the Evos and those folks. And of that, less than $250 million is actually in specialty. So I think one of the big questions is going to be, well, okay, if they're going to more than double this thing, Are they going to double it in specialty? Are we going to go, from 250 million or whatever to 500 million? I don't necessarily see that, really.
I don't think there's the floor space to do that.
Well, right, and I don't know that the outdoor specialty wants to get deeper in with some of these bigger brands, right? So that leaves D2C as one route, right? It leaves fashion or lifestyle, call it what you will, Macy's, as another route, and then the other route is international. So it's going to be interesting because they're going to need to take share or expand their market to more than double in size. So, and then what are the categories? Somebody on LinkedIn said, "I don't see them doubling their equipment and bags business." To which my answer was, well, it's equipment and bags. So you figure out which side of that equation they're going to grow, right? So we're going to see a lot more jesters out there on the street.
I mean, apparel's the real opportunity, right? Because even footwear, same thing. I mean, they've been making shoes for going on 20 years now, at least 15, right? So that's another one where, again, hard to take that share, even at a big retailer, even like at a Dick's, to have to knock a few shoes off that wall and get more added to it is going to take a lot of effort and probably a lot of advertising spend. I mean, it's just going to be so much goes into it. The opportunity easily is in apparel, I would imagine.
They say that they're only going to double apparel. They're tripling footwear. Right.
And so interesting.
Yeah. Because I think footwear is still a relatively small category within North Face and is kind of concentrated in like hike and trail running and those sorts of things. I think they want to take it to a much more of a lifestyle type play. So yes, let's keep the quote unquote top of the mountain stuff, but then have a lot of other product where it's more everyday.
It's going to have to be that, I would think. I mean, because it's one thing if it was like, we're trying to take off a few different boot brands or something like that, but with just the footwear assault of On and Hoka and all these other brands that are just, I think it just eaten into Nike's share in this category, in the general footwear space, not even just in the outdoor. I just can't imagine it would, tripling it in the core. The core is going to be difficult, but we'll see. This is an opportunity for somebody. Hey, Caroline, you want to come on and talk about how you're planning on doing it? We would love to have you.
We'd love to.
Number 2, the North Face will serve both performance-driven outdoor consumers and larger, quote, performance-inspired lifestyle and the larger performance-inspired lifestyle segment. I mean, that's kind of what they're doing already. Right?
This is, I mean, the outdoor industry has been talking about this forever. I can't tell you how many, brand presentations I've seen over the years that show the classic, pyramid. The top is the aspirational customer, yada yada, and then there's the aspirational. They do it all the time, whatever. Then there's in the middle. There's the outdoor. They're active outdoors, but maybe only like
the more recreational.
And then there's the lifestyle, piece at the bottom. I mean, this is nothing new. I'm sorry, but what it does tell you is at least that they understand that they really need to lean into the aspirational piece. You can't let that go. You can't let that core go, because that aspirational aspect is what then makes the people who are just buying it to look outdoorsy still want to buy it, if you see what I'm saying.
Sure. But I mean, that also is just why they're not core anymore, right? Because, it's just this lifestyle stuff, right?
But we talked about this, and I think recently it's like, but who is core? I mean, outside of true equipment brands, and that's all that they do, like the Nemos of the world, right? Or even the Ospreys of the world. Being core and being an apparel brand primarily, it's almost antithetical, I would say, if you're going to grow to any size. So it's a trope. And there was a lot of blowback on LinkedIn about that. Like, they're not core anymore. Like, well,
it's amazing.
Yeah. It's just,
I mean, I know we said it as a parting shot here a couple of weeks ago. Like, just leave them alone in this. I think I said before hit record, I saw a video, a photo from Everest Base Camp of like some guys standing around, like 3 of the 4 wearing North Face jackets. If people are still wearing and using your stuff at Everest Base Camp, you're a core outdoor brand. Okay. I'm sorry. Just like give up this like tired shtick that they're not core anymore. Yes. And they are, like every other outdoor brand, going to have performance-inspired lifestyle. That is what they're going to do. I don't care if it's a tiny independent founder-led brand. Well, that's not true. I guess there's some people who aren't going to go that route. But if they decide not to go that route, then they're probably not going to grow very big. They're not going to get very big. And that is just what's the way that it is.
Yeah, and I think we're just going to see a lot more collabs. I mean, for as much as
Right.
people, I don't know who, bellyached about the Skims thing, I think that's actually, we're going to see more of the same, which may piss off the quote unquote core, but I think that's where the growth's going to come from. So.
All right, well, that brings us to number 4 on the list, which is the North Face will elevate materials quality and price to value perception. What's that about?
Yes. So what I think it means is that prices are likely going to go up. So they're going to upgrade materials, especially for the more top of the mountain type product, right? So try to move up a little bit in
Yeah.
where they are. And I would say, that's not surprising given that, Caroline Brown came out of luxury, right? Her whole career has been in luxury, LVMH, Giorgio Armani, et cetera. And so she understands price. She understands, brand equity more than anything. I mean, that the whole luxury deal is margin through brand equity, and so that's why she's leaning into brand, leaning into product. But then also, I think that part of that lean in to brand and product is to be able to push price up, at least certainly at the top, like the top of the mountain product. And so, if you can move those pieces up and start to command higher retails there, you can then start to inch up the more mass volume pieces as well.
Is this a little kind of a fluffy bullet, though? I mean, like, if you're already an outdoor brand, you're already usually using better materials. The quality is good. Things last. I mean, is this kind of just filling out the roster of things to talk about at the presentation on Investors Day?
Maybe. Part of it may get into the whole tech aspect, too, of their proprietary technologies, which we'll touch on a little bit later.
Okay.
But yeah, I think what it is saying, though, is we plan to stay a premium brand, right? We're not going to chase, you're not going to find us in Kohl's. We're not going to chase that kind of volume. We're going to stay premium in terms of our materials and our pricing as well.
Number 5, the North Face will offer full head-to-toe collections within each category. I mean, are they not already doing this?
Well, that was my initial thought. I'm like, oh, maybe they'll get into socks and base layer, and then I look and they're already in socks and base layer. And so then I I looked into the comments a little bit more, and really what this is, I think, is the issue that they have where let's say the man or the woman who buys that North Face jacket, right?
Yeah.
And wants to be seen in that North Face jacket, has no interest in North Face hiking pants, no interest in many other areas of their quote unquote head to toe collection that exists today. Right. It's a different, so that customer only thinks of them for outerwear, doesn't think of them for the rest of the head to toe at all. And so what I think this means is really them leaning into other aspects or more, I guess, lifestyle accessible product for call it leggings, pants, shorts, whatever, that doesn't have kind of quite as much of an outdoorsy vibe, that maybe, is more athleisure and less outdoor in terms of its look.
I feel like I've heard some of this before, and is this kind of a misguided attempt? Because I think the best way I ever heard somebody describe about what they want a product to do, and it was from some folks at Under Armour. I think I've told this in the pod before, and we were meeting with them when I was at Polar Tech, and I said, look, we want people to walk into the store, see it hanging there, pick it up and go, yup, that's the one, and walk to the register. I don't even care if they try it on. Like that's the best case success right there. And when I hear these things about like, well, we want to develop a collection, so they're thinking of us more in these other pieces, and they're not currently thinking of us in these other categories. I'm like, I don't think people think that way in general. I think most people think, again, it's a passion. Usually it's an impulse decision and a passion-driven decision. And then if it's like, oh, and I like the North Face brand too on top of it, that's like a bonus. So is that the right way to almost go about this? I just kind of think about that in collections, and with that being the end result versus just, hey, we want to play in all these different categories, so we're going to create good products in all these different categories.
I think it is about thinking of it in terms of collections, but also thinking of it in terms of customers. And, if you look at, let's say, that woman that's buying a Nuptse jacket, what does she have? What is she wearing under the Nuptse jacket? What is she wearing on her legs? What's she wearing on her feet? And, and can we play and compete better with those brands and those products than what we currently have today?
I see. So it's more about we know that we're known for this stuff. Let's try and get more known for this other stuff as well. More like that kind of mindset. I got you. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think you're pretty known for just about everything at this point. But okay. Number 6, the North Face will develop a heritage-driven design language.
Yes. So
This is good. This is good fluff right here, man.
It-
This is
well-
great. It's got,
actually, you know what? It is fluff. But I think it's actually, if you can do it well, this is
yeah.
really important because
Okay.
we bitch about this a lot on this pod, the sea of sameness that exists within the outdoor stores, right?
Sure,
and
right.
across brands, one puffy jacket looks like the next puffy jacket, yada, yada. And so when brands have a really clear design POV, like a Fjallraven, like an Arc'teryx, as an example, even a Cotopaxi that you love, right?
I got where you're going, right.
They stand out, and so people then look for that, and it really sets them apart from the rest of the product, and it gives them more of a reason to be and to live within that merchant's vision for the store. And I think over the years, well, two things happen. One is, over the years, the rest of the industry has, let's say, copied North Face's looks, whether it's like the Nupsy look type jacket or what have you. And over the years, North Face's own design language has been watered down, as it's tried to be all things to all people. So
Right.
if they can do this well, I think it could be great, to where, and I've said this on the pod before, the key for me a lot of times looking at a brand and talking to merchants was, if I cover up that logo, can I still tell you who makes that product?
Yes, right.
Right?
Yeah.
And
which is usually a big no for most outdoor stuff, apparel especially.
And that's usually a big no for a lot of North Face, outside of maybe their franchise products. So, I think jokingly, I feel like we're going to see a lot of black shoulder color blocking here,
like a lot of Denali looks. They're going to go back to that's probably their most like signature look. Because to your point, like the Nupsy, the down stuff now is just like, well, it's a down jacket. I might be able to be a little discerning between them, but probably not. The Denali, it's like, oh, it's a Denali.
Yeah,
you know what it is.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a lot of, not necessarily all black, black shoulder overlays, but I think we are going to see a lot of color blocking where it is, darker on top, lighter on the bottom. We are going to see a lot more sort of like the whole forearm elbow patch look. I mean, and I'm guessing, I'm not a designer, so hey, but
grain of salt,
a grain of salt. But I do think they're going to, from a design perspective, really pick apart what makes North Face, and then try to put together a design language that they can then work into each of their different products. And then as they move beyond maybe some of the more outdoorsy looks for, let's say, their bottoms, program, how do you like what does a North Face non-outdoorsy looking bottom look like that's still within this quote unquote design language? So it'll be interesting.
I have a nit to pick then on these initiatives, and maybe I should save it to the end. But let me say it, and then you can tell me if we should save it to the end. For what you're just described, if you're talking about tripling and doubling your range, it's only going to get that much harder. It's a lot of stuff to try and implement. And I understand maybe that's why they're saying we want to have this design language will enable them to make their range that much bigger. But wow, that's a lot of stuff that's going to try and have this unique point of view so that that it's North Face. I don't know how you do it. I mean, how could you even start that process?
Tough. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. But what I would say is you want to do it before you start expanding the line versus after, right? Fair. Figure out what those unique design elements are, so that now when we're designing these other things, we're like, okay, we stand for X, Y, and Z. These are the visual cues that say that it's North Face. It could be logo placement. It could be a bunch of things. Those all have to be in place. Otherwise, this isn't really a North Face product. It's just a knockoff of whatever, Lululemon or, you name it, right?
Also, they did say they're doubling and tripling their business, not necessarily like the amount of stuff they're making. I still feel like this has the threat of like this becomes like full like Cheesecake Factory menu of like we do a million things at a C- level, right? So.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not a Cheesecake Factory person, but okay.
But you've seen the menu, right? It's like a novel.
I've never eaten at a Cheesecake Factory.
Oh, really?
No.
That's what I was like. Yeah. you're probably better off, if I'm being honest. All right, number 7 on the list, and this is a good follow-up to that one. The North Face will lean into, quote, product franchise management.
Yeah. So what this really means is, and it's not like they haven't done franchise management before, but
Yeah, Summit Series, right.
yeah, I mean, it's like their franchise products, right, are Denali and Nuptse and Mountain Jacket and those things, right? And so it's this concept of, okay, yes, we have a Denali, but how do we manage that franchise, and how do we take that look and then expand it elsewhere? So it's not just going to be a jacket, but we're going to have it's going to be cropped, it's going to be lengthened, it's going to be a vest, it's going to be all these things, and we're going to do that with all of these products and have them in multiple different ways. Whereas you still think of it as a Nuptse, it's clearly part of the Nuptse family, but we've kind of changed up how it goes to market. So I don't know that there's a lot here other than they're going to be more thoughtful about that and really lean into the whole franchise concept. I think this was one where a number of folks on LinkedIn were sort of saying, sounds a lot like Nike about 2 or 3 years ago, where they really started to lean on some of the old faithfuls and maybe over emphasize the old faithfuls, and now people have kind of moved on from that. It's just like, okay, yeah, we've seen that before. Like, what's new here? So this is one where, like, okay, yeah, franchise management is important, but you can take it too far, and it can actually bite you in the ass.
Yeah, the more I look at the list, the more I feel like this list could have been about 3 or 4 bullet points instead of 9. And it's like from their end, like the next one is tech development will focus on element protection, moisture management, and movement enhancement. It's like, okay, so you're an outdoor brand, so like, what more do you really need to put that as part of your plan to the North Face?
Yeah, I think what that it's trying to add focus, I think, is what it's trying to do, which is fine. Really, though, it's not like North Face hasn't tried to develop technologies over the last number of years. The challenge has actually been getting those technologies to really be something that consumers recognize and value. Okay.
Right.
So like, I don't know. Do you remember Fuse Form back in the day?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually I love my Fuse Form jacket, but consumers didn't care, right? It was just like, okay, so there's a different weave and a different thing. It was really sort of nerdy techie shit. Then you've got Future Light that they came out with, which was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, which was their take on the next generation of what a 2-layer fabric coater would be, and arguably, supposedly, performed better than Gore-Tex, etc. Fast Dry was another one they came out with. Thermoball, right? I mean, so
Thermoball.
Thermoball did really well. I think
it's sold great.
It's sold great, exactly. So of all of those, it did the best, and in my mind, the reason that it did the best was because it had a visual element to the technology. Right. It was actually, from the consumer's perspective, they were like, oh, I don't know what a thermoball is, but I can kind of understand it. And I see it because you've created this whole different quilting pattern, and consumers got it. And so that to me is like, okay, if you're going to do Flash Dry or Future Light or all these other things, is it going to be something that people actually care about and look for and differentiates you from the next guy?
I just thought Thermoball looked terrible. That was I hated the Thermoball. And then and you're right, but because it was so successful, they were everywhere then. I felt like I was just surrounded by this ugly jacket all the time. So
the thing I hated
not my favorite.
The thing I'm with you. The thing I hated about Thermoball was the fit. I mean, it was so boxy.
Big.
It just like
it was a Middle America jacket. Sorry, Middle America, but you know what I'm talking about.
No. Yeah. I wasn't a big fan, but it sold like hotcakes. So
yeah, great.
Right. Yeah.
Made a lot of sense for them. Last one is the North Face will modernize its marketing. Shortest one on the list. Did they explain what that means?
Yeah. I think ultimately what it means is we're going to way more digital. Not that they weren't already in digital, but I think it's more and more digital, even more collabs. I mean, you might think, oh, we've got Gucci and we've got, Supreme and we've got Skims. No. We are tip of the iceberg stuff right here. We're going to see a lot more of
Yeah.
that. Way more influencers. So, I think you had your whole conversation about athletes, right?
Right.
In,
Yeah.
in the past, and to me, there's this sort of there's athletes and there are influencers, and they're not the same thing, right? You
Agreed.
have
Yeah.
athletes who are influencers, but you've got a whole bunch of influencers who are not athletes, and so I think we're going to see those a lot more from those folks here as we
Interesting.
move forward with North Face. I think we're going to see a lot more UGC content, which is for a brand like North Face. That UGC is an interesting play just because for brands that really want to manage their brand, it can be tough for them to kind of like let that go and like let some random influencer or a random person unbox a Denali jacket. But it's very powerful and it works really well on social because it's much more like endemic to the platform, right? It doesn't look like an ad, so people actually engage with it much more than this slick, beautiful shot that they did on the top of Mount Eiger or whatever. So I think they are going to move in that direction as well. More celebrity endorsements, I think, is also coming as well here, right? So
Sure.
not just influencers, but actually celebrities. So it's that whole play. It's getting attention and staying as part of the zeitgeist by being part of the whole social media landscape and conversation, as opposed to much more curated and managed marketing through print or TV or whatever else.
Right. Did they mention one thing not represented in this list, and they may have said it during the presentation? Nothing on circularity, sustainability. Did that come up in the panel that you saw?
Not that I saw, no.
I think that's a big miss. They at least should have been mentioned, I would imagine. I mean, especially if this is all going to be put out public, or maybe they're sort of reflecting the current political climate and the rollback of DEI and stuff like that, and not wanting to kind of touch that. But I mean, it's so endemic to the outdoors to at least talk about. And we're going to do it greener than we've done it before,
Right, but the audience here was investment analysts, right?
Well, that's true. That's right. This wasn't just for us.
Yeah, about
That's right.
about sustainability, and in fairness, I'm not sure that a lot of consumers of the North Face give a flying F about sustainability either. They probably want to know that box is checked, but they're not really digging in, on this stuff.
But this is what we talk about, that like until they proactively make it important, it won't become important. Patagonia continues to be the only one like hammering this.
Right.
Then it's, that's the Patagonia thing. That's not the outdoor industry thing, right? So another opportunity to jump on board with that, I guess, and anytime there's a public forum.
And we did actually skip one, which was that they're talking about going from 20 product categories down to 3. Okay. And so they're going from, I don't know what all the 20 categories were, but
you got to name them all.
The three the 3 categories are snow, climb, and trail. And what I took away from that is, hey, listen, we're going to, rather than have like, hey, we've got a category for athletic leggings or whatever the hell it is, or we got pants or, men's, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, we're going to really center each of the categories that we have in core outdoor activities, right? Mm-hmm. So snow, climb, and trail. And that really will help us to stay centered and kind of authentic, so to speak, around each of those elements so that it's still part of the DNA. And to me, this was a bit of a final repudiation for a strategy that they took on in kind of the mid-teens. I don't know if you remember this, but their strategy, they went with these sort of customer-centric customer cohorts. And I don't know, I think there were 4 of them. I don't remember the exact details. But what I remember specifically was like they had one that was like outdoor, like core outdoor. That was a category. Then they had one that was urban or whatever they wanted to call that, urban streetwear or whatever, right?
Right.
Then they had one that was, I think it was mountain lifestyle. Right. So not really performance, but like you want to look outdoorsy. And then the 4th one, I think, was like active. So it was like their play on getting into the Lululemon type product. Right.
Right.
And that didn't really work. And if anything, I think some people would point to that as part of the loss of a little bit of the core, because the core, as everybody is all about core, was only part of one of those four segments. And so it really was like, oh, we're in the urban part of this. We don't give a crap about, top of the mountain
it
or any
doesn't
of that
matter,
shit, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so this is, I think, almost a complete reversal to say, no, everything we do is core. We're not, and the reason why, let's say, we have a customer that is urban or that likes the stuff for streetwear is because it still has that top of the mountain appeal, not because we're designing specifically for that customer.
Okay, so, which, by the way, that all makes sense. I'm all for simplification. If you have 20 product categories, that sounds kind of ridiculous. To your point, like it allows them to kind of have things held against them, like, oh, you're not core because you have the whole divisions now that are not even like, what you say you used to be, whatever. I like that. I think I like the clarity of that. If I'm on that product team, I'm thinking, great, I'm on the snow team. So now we are making these sort of franchises, this design language, all the other things on this list kind of playing into those specific categories. What's the response been, though? Because I did notice, I saw on SGB the day after this presentation, VF shares dropped. Is there anything, is that a larger VF problem? Or is that, obviously it's not going to be solely the North Face, but I mean, is there a correlation to be made about what was at the Investors Day, the Investors Day versus what came out the next day?
What most analysts pushed back on was that there wasn't really very clear guidance as to where are we going this year? Like, where are we going in terms of revenue this year? Because this is all
2026 at the earliest. Yeah, right.
And for analysts, this was all very hand waving, right? In terms of like, it was brand, it was product, which I actually think is great. I think it's great that they're focusing on brand and product. That's what they should be doing. But as an analyst, they want to hear about, they want to hear about the financials. They want to hear about slashing more cost. They want to hear about laying people off. They want to hear about, retail expansion.
Right.
They
want those big things that are moving the needle in the financial markets. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And they didn't hear that. What they heard was brand, product. And analysts are like, we don't care about that shit. Tell us what's going to drive the stock price up 10% in the next 12 months.
Tomorrow, right? Yeah, right. As opposed to
so I think from that perspective, it was a lot of sizzle, no steak, maybe from the analysts.
Yeah, but that's not true. Like I'm with you. I mean, this all sounds better. Like hearing you have a strategy on these things that are addressing things that are specific to the outdoor marketplace is really encouraging. I assume that was your kind of key takeaway through all of this.
Yeah, and one of the interesting elements that came out of this was that they said they're now going to make product design, development, and merchandising, make those leaders part of the North Face global leadership team. And my first question was, they weren't part of the leadership team before this, right? It's like, holy shit. So you've been running this bad boy, and the people that are actually designing, developing, and merchandising your product didn't have a seat at the table. Now, there was probably like one person that was maybe over all of that shit, right? So I'm sure there was, I'm not sure. I hope that there was some kind of product, representation. But yeah, having them there, again, talks to the importance of brand and product, and that's where Caroline Brown comes from that aspect. And so I think that's, to me, it's encouraging that they've got somebody who is about brand and about product at the helm, and not somebody that came out of Nike's D2C leadership team or whatever, or came out of finance, right? It's like, no. This is somebody that understands the importance of brand. Okay. And so that to me is encouraging. Now, how successful all this will be, time will tell, but I feel like it's a movement in the right direction.
So I'm obviously having a little fun with the length of the list and how it's broken up. But basically, you have the number one in this list that'll double apparel, equipment, bags, and triple footwear. That's the goal. And then points 2 through 9 here are basically what they're going to do to support that goal. So sitting here, March 2025, what's your prediction? If we fast forward, let's say we're heading into spring 27. Where's the North Face, or even just next year? How close do you think we come to achieving those goals?
I think it's going to be tough, quite frankly. I think it's going to be tough, and by golly, if they do it, then
Yeah.
gold star. I think it's a very audacious goal. I wouldn't I wouldn't have come out with that goal.
Big numbers.
Those are big. I mean, yeah, to say
Yeah.
that we're going to base more than double this. Now they didn't. So that was the other thing, was that we're going to double, but they didn't say by when. Right. So,
Right.
hey, maybe with enough inflation over the next, 4 years, we'll get there. We'll just sell the same amount of stuff, where everything is going to go up
This is great.
25% a year. Hey,
Look
we
at that.
doubled,
Look, guys,
people.
hey, we hit 6 billion this year. Didn't do anything else. Just sat around.
Exactly. It's great.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
But yeah, it's audacious. Again, I wouldn't have signed up for that. I mean, I feel like it's going to be interesting then to see sort of the guidance on okay, so we're going to double the business of our biggest brand, but our guidance for this year is to be up 1% to 2%. It's like, okay. When does the doubling start? When does that start?
Yeah. Well, and to your point about the collabs, I mean, it's gonna have to be that. I mean, I don't have any data in front of me to speak to this, but it just feels like how can the industry support a doubling of the North Face? Probably not, right? In terms of the retail distribution, all the things we do, even D2C. So if you're really gonna find just huge wins that are in adjacent marketplaces, okay, but man, 4 to 8 billion, and I mean, you're right. They haven't put a timeline on it, but I would hope they would be thinking 3 years. What's 4?
5, 6, 12,
6?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
Two CEOs from now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That is the thing, right? Is the timeline on some of these deals. Right. People typically it's 2 or 3 years. So no,
Caroline's I'm not going to be here
I
anyway.
don't see this happening in 2 or 3 years. Maybe this is the 5-year plan, but but that is the thing, right? Usually when people lay out these, what they call BHAGs. Have you heard the term BHAG?
I have not.
It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. Is a BHAG.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that acronym. That's a good one.
Yeah. So usually when people throw out BHAGs, there's usually a date. So it's like, and it's usually round figures. It's 8 million by 2028. Like
Right.
It all kind of works together. So 8 billion rather. So yeah, we're waiting for that the other side of that equation to be announced.
It's time for a party shop.
Last week we promoted Artelect on Founders Friday.
Yeah.
What's going on over there? So,
a really great brand. They have some awesome technology that they use for their merinos. So I don't want to get into bore you with all the tech details, but the way that the merino is spun means that it is actually much more long. It's much more durable, much more long-lived. So one of the challenges with merino is the fact that it wears out and you get holes and whatever else. This stuff really lasts. Also, it doesn't stretch out. And so it is more expensive, but from a performance perspective, it's great. And then I like their style. That it's a very clean aesthetic. A little bit more of a European fit, etc. So it's just great stuff. Really, really high end. A little pricey. I'm not gonna lie, but it's one of those investment pieces. I have a hoodie that I absolutely love. Like I wear it, I don't know, probably twice a week, every week, right? I mean, it's one of those pieces that's kind of can be core in your wardrobe. So really like what they're doing. And the other nice thing is they are a brand that is focused on specialty retail. They're not playing on Amazon. They're not looking to sell into Dick's. They're not doing any of that stuff. They understand the importance of specialty, and this is a brand that really walks the walk around that.
And then, so this is going up on Friday. So by that time, you'll have your next one out. Who's that going to be?
So the brand that's going to go up on Friday is actually Scenic, who I think has been on this show.
Oh,
yes, yeah. So
Tina and Maddie.
And Maddie, yeah. And so I love what they're doing. They are the antidote for the sea of sameness within the outdoor category, creating product with a totally different look, a different cut, a different fit. just fun, differentiated product. They were actually picked up. Their ski line was picked up by Sporting Life out of Toronto or out of Canada. And I don't know if our listeners are familiar, but Sporting Life is they're kind of like the Paragon Sports of Toronto.
Oh,
People in New York will understand what I'm talking about.
Paragon rules.
Yeah. But because the Sporting Life buyer, they saw their press release and they're like, oh, this shit's cool. We have to get this. So now I'm really excited about what they're doing. I think it's a really fun brand. And in true, I also love, Maddie and Tina are just on it, right? I mean, in terms of just, they are business people. They get it. And so they're the first person in this whole deal to go, hey, and can we add a coupon code? I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that. Of course you can add a coupon code. Let's do this. So
Wait, what do you mean for the Sporting Life?
No. For
Founders Friday.
For Founders Friday, yes. So if you
look at you.
Yeah. So if you get check out my LinkedIn, and you will you'll see the scenic post, and there's going to be a little coupon love in there. I'm not I don't love discounting, but for a little new customer,
but this is so
incentive,
like kind of niche thing, right? Yeah, like you discover Owen's thing, and then you get a little discount off your scenic jacket. You know, for the women out there, because it's a women's specific line. So
it is. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. All right. Well, if you want to be featured on Founders Friday, reach out to Owen on LinkedIn. We'll put his link in the show notes. Hey, man, thanks for dropping by. We'll
Absolutely.
see you back here on Monday with producer Dave.
All right, lots to talk about. Oh my gosh, so much going on.
Oh my God, it's been a week.
It's been a week.
All right, we're going to wrap it up there, but come back on Monday where Owen will be here again along with producer Dave to talk about, a lot of stuff. We're going to be talking about this state of the outdoor economy, frankly. Check out the latest from the Rockfight Podcast Network, Open Container. The Rockfight's a production of Rockfight LLC for Owen Comerford. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Colin True. Thank you for listening, and here to take us out, Less Than Jake is waking and baking in Gainesville this weekend, but that doesn't matter because Krista Make still shows up every episode of the Rockfight to sing for you the Rockfight Fight song. We'll see you next time, Rockfighters.
Rock fight.